Hey, what's going on, friends? It's Barry E. Knight. I want to take this time to welcome you to the Leadership Class Coaching Session. Before we get into today's teaching, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you know when new videos like this are coming up. By the way, the coaching session is for basically anyone in leadership. If you are an executive leader leading an entire organization, or maybe you're leading a department, or maybe your oversight is over a team. There are so many videos that I know no matter which level you are on, it's going to speak something to you. It's going to transform the way you think and even how you show up as a leader. So let's get right into today's teaching. I simply want to talk about values, and I'm working with a few organizations doing some executive coaching and serving as a leadership strategist. And I'm noticing how values are, sometimes they're present, sometimes they're known, sometimes they're even repeatable, but they're not always followed. And I don't know if you've ever worked in an organization, or maybe you work in an organization where, yeah, Barry, we do have values, but to be honest, we don't really abide by them. So we're going to talk about not just values, but we're also going to talk about how values can solve conflict and drive greater performance. So today's teaching is simply entitled, as always, I have my notes here that I'm looking down at, a value-centered approach to solving organizational conflict. Let me say it again, a value-centered approach to solving organizational conflict. That conflict might be infighting. It might be a disagreement between one way we should do something and another way we should do something as an organization or a department or even our team. It could be organizational disharmony. Barry, we're just not seeing eye to eye. We're working. We're not stabbing each other in the back just yet, but it's something going on, and we don't know what it is, and it's causing our performance and productivity to diminish and decrease. So again, we're talking about a values-centered approach to solving organizational conflict. Many times conflict is a result of three things. Organizational conflict, you can almost trace it back to one of these three things. Number one, the values. Either the values are not known. In other words, we don't even know if we have values. Maybe they were created with the founder of the organization or the previous C-level executive or your predecessor in the organization. And they had values and they put it on this paper and it's somewhere in a file cabinet. We haven't even digitized it yet. It hasn't even been filed electronically, but there's some value somewhere floating around the office, somewhere in the organization we have them. So number one, they're unknown. Number two, maybe they are known, but they're not communicated. They're uncommunicated, or they're not reinforced. In other words, yeah, Barry, we have values. They're on the wall, right? We talk about them once a year in the beginning of the year, state of the organization meeting. We talk about our values, but then for the rest of the 364 days, we're back to doing regular stuff. So we know them, but they're not communicated often. In other words, they're not centered, as the title or topic of this teaching is. They're not centered, or they're not reinforced. And lastly is, yes, Barry, we know our values. Yeah, we have them. I can tell you it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's A, B, C, D. I know our values. The last one is there's no accountability when they are violated. And I want to pause and ask you to kind of think of those three things. Number one, your values are either unknown. Number two, they're uncommunicated or not reinforced. Or number three, there's just no accountability. So if I, overlook the value, if I don't abide by it, then, whatever. So what? I'm not getting in trouble. Nobody's holding me accountable to it, right? There's no accountability. Again, ask yourself right now, my friend, where do we fall? Where do you fall? Where does your organization fall? Your department, your teams, in relation to one of these three areas. And for some, it might be kind of a mix of 1, 2, 2, 3, or one of the two of the three, or three, or all of them, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, often organizations have values, but they're not driven by them. And so when we read books, any leadership book, any organizational growth book, Good to Great, Jim Collins, or Built to Last, also by Jim Collins and Jim Porras, I believe it is, we know that the great organizations, those lasting legacy organizations that we love to do business with, that we shop with, we go to Amazon, right? They're built on values. And again, I want you to think in this coaching session, how often do I, as the leader, invoke values in our team meetings, and how we make decisions and how we handle conflict, right? Values really are the driving force to which way we should go. They're often, a lot of times, can help you make those decisions, even when you're making tough decisions. Again, we're not always driven by our values. And so we often, even in our hiring, we bring people on our teams that are more of a fit for the intelligence that we need and the skill set than they are a culture, an organizational culture, and identity fit. And so again, I want you to pause and kind of think, as I'm leading my organization, my department, as I'm leading this team, how are values integrated into the everyday work that we do? One of my favorite places and organizations that I love to talk about and read and study is Disneyland. Because when you go to Disneyland, they're built on values. They hire and fire off of values. You don't ever see Mickey Mouse running around the park with his head off to the side, taking a smoke break. You will never see it. Why? Because their value is when your head is on, or number one, you keep your head on. And as you keep your head on, you're always in character. I want you to think about that. Think about your leadership team, your directs. Think about your team. Think about you all in the meeting when conflict does arise. Do you all know how to keep your head on and still hold each other accountable to values, but do it in a way to where maybe I respect the human spirit. I respect and honor the dignity of that person. In other words, I know how to separate the problem from the person. So there's a lot of values at Disneyland. It's called the happiest place on earth. That is a value that they abide by. Safety, making sure everyone is safe. A lot of times we don't understand when we go to Disneyland, and a lot of the rides, Matterhorn, is always shut down. Sometimes it is. Yes, it is due to lack of staffing. That is a lot of times. But a lot of times it's a safety issue. And it doesn't matter if it's a boat. And, where some people say, well, it's 95% safe. No, that is a value 100%. I mean, come on now. How many of you all would want to go anywhere where they say it's 95% safe? Yeah. 5% chance you could die. The belt could pop off or the lap bar could pop off. You could fly out, while you're on the top of Space Mountain coming down, right? Nobody wants that. So again, just think about all I'm getting you to do and want you to do is think about your organization, your leadership, and how values are communicated in your organization. There was an article written by Gustavo Rossetti. He is a consultant, a culture, organizational culture consultant, and he wrote on May 14, 2023, and he says this: the behavior that is tolerated, not your words, determines the real culture. Let me say it again. The behavior that is tolerated, not your words, the behavior that's tolerated, not your words, determines the real culture. So let me pause there. There's more that he said, but I want to pause there and ask you, what behaviors, what actions, what attitudes, what lack of work ethic are you tolerating as a leader? Are you saying, well, at least they got it done? Well, at least they showed up to the meeting, even with a nasty attitude. And, they were very apparent that they didn't want to be there, arms folded. They didn't say anything. And once we adjourned the meeting, they were the first out the door, and they really didn't speak to anybody for the rest of the day. Do you tolerate that? In other words, I have to be direct as your executive coach. That's why people hire me, because I'm not the one to say, oh, it's okay, rub you on your back circles, and say, oh, it's okay, you're a great leader. No, you need to fix that, my friend. You are the leader. And as I often say, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I say whether your organization is healthy, dysfunctional, or stuck, it always acts like its leader. It always acts like you. right? So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me hurry on and hasten to the end of this. So he says the behavior that is tolerated, not your words, determines the real culture. The next part says understanding and managing culture requires careful attention to what is explicitly and implicitly rewarded and punished within the organization. Understanding and managing culture requires careful attention to what is explicitly and implicitly rewarded and punished within your organization. Think about those things that you reward. Think about the areas that you punish. Those are dictating your real values. I often say this, you don't rise to your vision, you fall to your disciplines or your culture or your identity or your values. If you've gone through any of my trainings, it's the who, WHO. It's the who of the organization. In other words, we do not allow who we are, values, organizational culture, organizational identity, that these are non-negotiables, right? This is something that we abide. We will fire you. That's what Disneyland will do. They will fire you if you violate any of their core values. That's how important it is. That's why people pay millions, billions a year, whatever it is, per ticket to go to Disneyland or Disney World or any other parks owned by Disney. It's because their value is experience, safety, magic, right? That's one of their values, a magical place. All of that helps it to be the happiest place on earth. Think about your organization. Think about the culture for your team when they come through the door, and how are they welcomed to do the work? What are the values that they can sit on, knowing, trusting you as the leader, trusting their team as teammates, and knowing that the work is going to get done. So let me get to the next point. Values, write this down. Values, by the way, always have a pen, paper ready, smartphone, dumb phone to take copious notes. I didn't mention that in the beginning, forgive me, but let me read this. Values must be driven deep into how you work together, and the manner in which you get things done. That's found in my book, The Gift Called Leadership. Values must be driven deep in how you work, that's individually, how you work together, that's collectively, and the manner in which you get things done. That's your performance, productivity, and results. In other words, I want you to think about that. Let's pause for a moment for you to think about what are the values? What should it look like how someone works individually? In other words, when no one's watching them, when they can get away with maybe slacking off a little bit, what is the value of that individual? What's the value that makes them show up to work on time, stay late if necessary? Don't break before the break. Don't lunch before the lunch, right? You know how people do. They bring their food to the desk, and then they'll say, I'm working, reading something, they'll eat, and then they'll go take an hour lunch or 45-minute or 30-minute lunch, whatever you have, right? No. What is the value of how we work individually when no one is watching? This is how we show up. This is how we work. And then what are the values of how we work together, how we collaborate, how we communicate, how we hold each other accountable to the work, to the values, to the results? What does that look like? What is our culture? Do people long to be in collaboration? Is there cohesiveness with you and your team and the team with each other? And also values need to be driven deep in the manner in which you get things done. What are the values for our work and our deliverables? What are those values? So these are questions for you to stop, and at any time, my friend, pause the video, pause this teaching, and reflect on what I'm asking you. Reflect on these questions. Take note. Go back, watch the video again, rewind to that part, play it as many times as you need to get a little bit more clarity. So I want to give you, there's 8 things that I want to do. If you're dealing with conflict in your organization and you want a values-driven approach to solving conflict in your organization. I'm just going to give you 8 things and I'm going to let you get back to your very, very important work. Number 1, write these questions down. They'll be on the screen as well. Number 1, which values are being violated? So think about the conflict. I want you to actually look at the conflict. Is it a matter of work? Is it a matter of person-to-person conflict? Is it a higher up and a subordinate, or whatever it might be? Just really analyze the conflict and then look at your values. Say, here's what's going on, and think about what about this conflict, or which values, rather, is this conflict violating? Which values, or which one value, 2, 3, whatever. Just figure out and ask that question, which values are being violated? Number 2, which values have I not reinforced as the leader of the organization, of the department, of the unit, of the team? Which values have I not reinforced? Look at the conflict. You're asking question number 1, which values are being violated? And then number 2, you're asking, which values have I not reinforced? In other words, I've let it go. I've turned a blind eye to it. I haven't even said anything. My friend, that's your responsibility. You are a contributor to the conflict when you do not uphold your organization's, your team's, your department's values. Which values have I not reinforced? Number 3, which values haven't been taught and properly demonstrated? In other words, again, we hired them, we trained them. Maybe we talked about the values, maybe we didn't. Many organizations don't. They hire you. You come aboard. They train you how to do the work, but they don't train you to do the work based on these values. That's when you get the greatest performance, productivity, and outcomes and results, when they are values driven. I got a little bit emotional because I have to tell a lot of my clients this, and sometimes it kind of goes over their head, and they fail to remember it's not the work. The values, that's the gas. That's the stuff that revs up the engine to have the highest performance, to go the furthest and the farthest and fast and as expeditiously yet effectively and efficiently as possible when you tie performance to values, okay? So when you're looking at conflict, number 3 is which values haven't been taught or we haven't even been demonstrating them. Number 4, I'm gonna hurry up. Which values are not modeled, by me and my leadership team? I want you to ask yourself, which values are not being modeled, or which values I don't even show up doing these values. I violate them all the time. Well, you can't do that, of course. I'm not going to get on you. Don't worry. Which values are not modeled by me and my leadership team? Number 5, question number 5, what is the process when values are violated, and how do we retrain? We don't always have to fire, especially if we haven't been teaching you. So if you do something and I didn't tell you, it's like my kids, right? If they're doing something, I never told them not to do it, I can't really get mad. I mean, I can, but it's not justified, right? But it's when they violate the value that has been spoken, it's been communicated over and over again, okay? So I don't want to keep giving commentary. Number 5, what is the process when values are violated? And then how do we retrain, recoach, redevelop them so that they're doing everything through those values? Question number 6, how will values be driven deeper into the organization's culture and identity? So we're looking at the conflict. Don't forget that. That's where we started. We're looking at the conflict. We're analyzing it. We're studying it. We're finding out which values are being violated, but then we're also now digging deeper into the values. Question number 6, how will values be driven deeper, again, into how we work together, and the manner in which we get things done? How will it be, or these values be driven deeper into the organization's culture and identity? Question number 7. After this, just one more to go. What is the why behind each value? Don't just put 5 values, 7 values. By the way, don't have more than 4 to 7 values. Try not to. I don't want to say don't, but try not to have, because after a while, so many numbers, people can't really comprehend which values go to which. And by the way, if you have more than 10, probably 4 of them go to another. Okay, so you can drop them down to 6. So again, question number 7, what is the why behind each value, and how does this relate to both practical and philosophical results? How does this relate to practical and philosophical results? So you want to have the why. You want to be able to talk about the why this value. You want that to be philosophical. In other words, when we feel better, we work better. When we like each other, these are philosophical things. When we like each other and respect each other and honor each other's human spirit and dignity, then we can get the best out of each other. There's greater synergy when we have that value embedded in our work, how we work together in the manner in which we get things done. So again, that's what you want to do. And then you also want to talk about how it relates to both practical and philosophical results. Number 8, last but not least, this is so good, how do you measure the impact of values in performance and even in your evaluations? How do you measure it? How do you measure that we are operating by our values? Values should not be so philosophical that they can't be practical. So we want to, yes, have values that we respect each other, but we also want to be able to turn that value into something that can be measured. How do we know we are a team that respects one another? That could be a survey or an assessment quarterly, twice a year, however often you do it, to measure that these values are showing up once again in how we work individually, how we work together collectively, and the manner in which we get things done. That is the performance, the productivity, and your results. Listen, my friend, I hope you got something out of today's teaching. Please, again, go back and read over your notes. Hopefully you took copious notes. Watch this teaching again, and do me a favor. If you know of any leader, executive, that's in your industry or in another industry that is a peer of yours that is dealing with something, a conflict, disharmony, or something that's happening in their organization, and you believe that this teaching is going to impact them and help them, then be a great friend and share this video with them as a gift to them. Do me a favor and again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, on December 10th, that's coming up, the Visionary Summit. This is for executive leaders. It's for entrepreneurs. It's for visionaries. It's for change makers. It's for pastors. If you have a huge God-sized vision and you're trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? Maybe you're dealing with limiting beliefs and you're dealing with limiting behaviors. Maybe there's some strategy that you're not clear on. Maybe you're not clear of what to do, the first steps. Maybe it's a faith belief challenge or getting teams together. You have to be here at the Visionary Summit, December 10th, 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Eagle Glen Golf Club in Corona, California. It is going to be phenomenal. The room will be filled. We're going to feed you. Tickets, general admission is $100. VIP tickets are $150. Again, a full all-you-can-eat buffet, lunch buffet. We're going to have a panel of successful multiple seven-figure leaders that are literally global. They're building global empires, and we're going to talk to them about how they forged a vision, forged relationships, how they got clear on their vision, the strategies that they took, and really, honestly, how they stepped up and had the faith and the belief to step out and do what it is that God has called them to do. And so I hope you'll be there. Again, there's a registration link in the notes below. Go ahead, get your tickets, and please do me a favor, invite as many people as you can that you know will benefit from the content and the context and the atmosphere of the Visionary Summit. Listen, that's it, my friend. My name is Barry E. Knight, and my purpose and calling is simple. It's to help you succeed in yours. 2 fingers.